So that's a quartz bee. They make quartz. Essentially, the RNG took me a minute to realize what it makes. It essentially makes dyes. It makes every dye known to man. Hi everybody, 1SmolPot8o here with another episode of Minecraft. So today we're actually going to be working on a few mods. We're going to be touching on Ars Nouveau. We're also going to be kind of touching on Astral Sorcery. I'll kind of talk about it. Right now I'm at a point where I need to dig around in the crystal where you find these rock crystals. It's essentially Y4 unless I'm wrong. What you do is you have this one and you got to look around it at night for white particle effects. But they're all the way down at Y4, so we're not going to do that at the moment. But what we are going to do is we're going to also work on... We're also going to do a little bit of Britannia. We're going to make the Rod of the Depths. I'm also going to talk to you about Tinker's Construct. It's not on here, but it is on here. And it's not... Okay, let me clarify. It's not on the quest line, but it does exist. Obviously here. See proof that it exists. It's going to take me a minute to explain how this works, though. Because it took me a while to figure it out, because they didn't change a lot, but they changed enough that that if you've played Tinkers enough, it throws you off and you'll feel really dumb. We're also going to touch create a little bit. I'm going to read some of the stuff to you guys on what it's trying to teach us. I'm also going to touch on some more mechanism. We're going to create the Energized Smelter today. We still haven't made the solar panels yet, but we'll get there. I'll make them in my free time and then set aside the materials and show you guys how I made it. Just because it's really weird. Let's see here. And we're also going to make the manual for power, as we're going to actually start to get into that. So let's see. We're not going to do Minecraft colonies today. I know some of you noticed I had the wagon for Minecraft colonies, which is kind of weird that they don't have it in the quest line. But essentially how Minecraft Colony starts is you start off, you either build a tiny ship that grows into a big ship when you put it down, or you build a wagon and it grows into a little like a little caravan. To give you an idea, I don't have the space for it at the moment. I'm going to clear out space over there enough to where it's close by that you can see it on the map, but not enough that we can look over here like I'm looking over now and just see it. Because unless they fix the lumberjack NPC and some others, if I remember correctly, the villagers of that mod tend to kind of branch off into your own section. Like the lumberjack would start cutting up my house. See, like where these logs are, the lumberjack would start tearing these down if I'm not careful, if I put the village over here. Also, the space would not be big enough, and to put the caravan down, I'd have to level out this whole lake, to give you an idea. Like, I'd have to cover it all with dirt. Just so that way it would count. And even then, it might not count. I'd have to still level everything past it. So, I walked away from the crafting table. Considering I was explaining mine colonies, and getting that out of the way. It's gonna go mine colonies is gonna go slow, but it's like I'm gonna show you guys once in a while, like, how it works. So it's like I'm gonna get it started, and then I'm gonna let it build kind of in the background and come show you how people do that when it's time to build a building and give someone their job. I'm gonna explain it, let the building build, and I'm gonna come back and visit them, and then you're gonna see how that NPC works in action. Alright, so we're doing Tinkers, and Tinkers is not there. Alright, so the interesting thing about Tinkers, to start off, you don't start off building Smeltery right away, which is weird, I know. You don't build the big Smeltery that you're used to building. You build a mini one, which is wild. Alright. So what we need is to make a Seared Heater first. So we gotta make a Seared Heater, because otherwise we have to make the Seared Melter to melt copper. Now the reason why we're melting the copper is because we won't have access to melted copper for the smeltery controller. You gotta have the smeltery controller. You gotta smelt the copper, pour it over a seared heater, and then have it become a smeltery controller. I don't recommend just relying solely on the seared smelter because it doesn't. One, it doesn't have a very large. It doesn't have a very large tank, and two, it does not, unlike the actual smeltery for Tinker's construct, it doesn't double ores like the large smelter does, which is why we're trying to get to the large smelter at the moment. I'll show you where I have that set up. I should set up a casting basin because you have to I'll show you. You have to place it in the casting basin. The casting basin also makes blocks. Like if we let's say we smelted all this copper enough to make a block of copper, then we could just pour it in the casting basin and make a block of copper. We're also going to do a seared tank. Or do a couple seared tanks. Well, no, we're going to do one seared tank. We're just going to do one seared tank for the time being. And I'm also going to show you how to lay out the blocks. Oh yeah, here's a neat thing. Thinking about the blocks and building the smeltery. This is really cool. They included a ladder. So you can actually go up and down the smeltery. You don't have to stick, like... You used to have to stick a wooden ladder to the side of the smeltery and just kind of climb up and down that way, and now you don't anymore. You don't have to do that. You can just climb up and down naturally from the smelter. Right, let's also have this set up. Yeah, see, look, I've already gone through kind of almost not even a stack of seared brick, but you'll go through it pretty quick without even paying attention. Okay, I'm also going to show you how to make the faucet, because we're going to need the faucet for... We're going to also need the faucet for the melter. We're also going to need the faucet for our smeltery. Because I'm also going to make a seared drain. Seared drains, basically, you don't even need a smeltery for that going, because you don't need molten copper. You just need 2 copper ingots. So you got that there. So now we have a seared drain. We're going to attach that to our smeltery when we get it underway. The casting basin, the thing that they changed for the templates actually is that they make them to gold now. You can do them as sand, red sand, or gold. And I'm going to show you how that works in a bit. Or at least I actually have it cast somewhere. I just don't... I'll figure out later. Because I don't actually have a part builder table yet. Okay, let's see here. Let me make sure I have everything. Okay, I don't have the seared smelter. I almost forgot about that. That would have been sad. Because I almost would have set it all up, save for the seared smelter. Which would have been very upsetting. It took me a minute to fit it, like, no, it didn't even take me a minute. It took me a while to figure this out. Like, I never would have guessed. Okay, and then for the seared melter, what else do we do with the tank? Okay, for the gauge, we loop the blocks around it. There we go. It doesn't even do anything. It's like, I made the initial base of how you'd make a general smeltery. Followed all the steps, and then it was like, wait, but I can't make the controller. And the controller is just molten copper. And I was like, where do I get molten copper from? Because I need the smelter to do that. And this is how it works. It's about to get weird. Alright, here's our base. Here's the base of what you want to generally have down. It has to be in this diameter exactly. Otherwise it's not gonna work. And then basically you kind of build around it. You can kind of interchange things even if you have basically even if you've already got molten stuff in it. Like let's say I had molten iron in this already and I took out a block. And if I put the block black, the molten iron would come back. So it's not like, oh, it's gone forever. It it immediately doesn't delete all that you've smelted. It just comes back. So, and I'm going to show you how it works, because we're gonna need some lava. Well, this actually fills up with lava, so that's how that works. Oops. Okay, let's see. Because yeah, that essentially fills up with lava. Nope. I hate that I auto-placed it there, trying to be like, oh hey, you wanna do this? Alright. Also, you want to make sure that this has a lot of room, because if you don't, it's going to get very cramped. You also build this very tall. I've made the ceiling a little too short, but that's besides the point, considering I'm just showing you guys how to get it started. Okay, now we want to apply the faucet. Oh, God. There we go. You have to shift click, apparently. I couldn't remember. I was like, wait, I did this before. Alright, so we have it set up. The faucet, we right click, it opens the faucet. Right click again, it closes the faucet. We're gonna want to unload our copper in here. It only smelts 3 at a time. And now we load in our fuel source. So we're just gonna watch it melt the copper. And we're gonna get enough. Also, let's put the seared heater in there before I forget. Because otherwise we're gonna be in trouble. Is that gonna be enough copper? Yeah, it might. Casting basin. Yes, okay, so that was enough copper. It only needed 3 blocks of copper. Put this here. And now we have it working. Because you can see that this sear drain's open. You put this here. And essentially, it doesn't have to be this height. You can make it taller if you want. I just kind of prefer it at this height so I can put my casting basin or my table right here. So it's just kind of a little bit easier to kind of pick up from than it being a little bit higher. You can also get really fancy with it. That's what these channels are for. Like, essentially, you could have this network of smelting and the molten liquid channeled through so many different rooms. If you wanted to get fancy with it. Though I'm not gonna get fancy with it. I don't really get fancy. I kind of just the fact that I can use the sear drain for the casting table as well as the basin is enough for me. Yeah, alright. Nope, that's not where I wanted to go. Now that I've basically shown you how to make the actual how to actually make your smeltery. The taller you make it, by the way, the more inventory it has. Like how this has 72 ingots. And then as we go over here, you'll see that this one, which was completed that I had to experiment with, actually can hold 504 ingots. I was looking at the wrong number. Now, as you can see, I already have a casting plate right here. You want to be careful with what you put in it. So, what you basically put in it is that if you, like, let's say I put in one of these ingots. If I put in one of these ingots right now, it's going to just disappear from the casting table. From the cast. It's gonna be used up and gone. So you want to kind of use cheap materials like the flint pickaxe head to just to make a cast. So that way when you lose it, it's no big deal and you've basically lost nothing. So you can see the lava here. You can't see the lava right here. Let me melt some more copper. Just so that way that's in there. You do have to refill it with lava once in a while, but I actually like that it's a use for lava aside from being kind of aesthetic and making obsidian. Okay, and it doesn't... Okay, it's not... Molten rose gold. I wonder what rose gold can do. Oh well, I'll have to find some more molten gold later to make more casts, but that's for another time. So don't mix copper and gold, apparently. Because I don't know what's all mixes now. Because it used to be that you need brass for the casts, and now you don't. which because the gold, I think in the previous version didn't work. You could do gold or brass, and the gold didn't work. You could only do the brass. But now that it works, it's kind of interesting. Alright, so now we're going to jump into Ars Nouveau. Okay, let's make sure I got gold. I got the glass. Yes. Let's see. Ars Nouveau wants us to make a mana jar for 1, which is easy enough because I already have the materials for it right here. As long as I don't mess it up in any way. There we go. So we have mana jar. Go quest mana. So essentially does is it does essentially what it does, what it's supposed to do, where it holds mana. But if I remember correctly, it's not portable, which is why we need to make the mana relay. Mana permeates all things left to its own. It spreads and infuses, but rarely collects. Binding it in jars is an excellent way of storing mana for later use, but moving it from place to place can be a touchy subject. So mana relays basically like allow you to move mana from one place to another without having to break, because if you break a jar, the mana's essentially gone to the ether. So what we do for a mana relay is we basically make another mana jar, which is why I have the materials for 2. And if I remember correctly, let me look at the recipe, because it's kind of weird. Okay, and then we have a mana jar. Oh, and the enchanting apparatus? Okay. I missed the enchanting apparatus part, but that's fine. Let's see, we could probably... No. Okay, so we can make a glyph press next, a crystallizer. I'm pretty you know what? Let's make a crystallizer. Because I'm fairly certain we have the gold with us right now to do so. Yeah, we do. We don't have the... We don't have the stone, but that's alright. I can go down to my inventory and grab it. Okay, sorry for the wait. Basically, organizing it this way. There we go. Now we have a crystallizer. Now, crystallizer basically, though found relatively commonly in the earth, arcane crystals can also be crystallized directly from the surrounding mana. Build a crystallizer early on to help obtain more of these useful gems, which makes sense considering I've almost found, like, I think since I've been playing for several hours, I've only found 4 of them. I've only found 4 mana gems and not really a whole lot. You almost don't find them. Okay, so we got that. We have our 2 mana jars. We have a crystallizer. We'll turn one of our mana jars into a mana relay. But at the moment, though, we're not going to do that immediately. And let's make our Britannia Wand. I don't know entirely what it does. I've never made one before, but we're going to see how it works. Okay, so let me make sure I've got the right materials. Ooh, that was the map. That was not what I wanted. Okay, so let's go to Britannia right here. There we go. So, rotted depths, combining water from deep aquifers with liquid hot magma to create and draw forth raw stone from the earth. That really explains what it does. I'm so glad you bothered to, like, not give a very... You kind of, like, described it, but also refused to describe it all in one go. Alright. So now we have a Rod of the Depths. I'm gonna move away from the house to use this. Considering the last time I used an unknown tool, as you recall from the first episode where I got a drill, and I drilled a chest in half. Alright. What does this do? I cannot tell. It doesn't look like it does anything. It's just kind of there. That's fine. I think it will come in handy later. Rod of the Skies, Rod of Hopper Hawk, Rod of the Land. So this obviously makes into something. Considering there are rods of each... I didn't mean to pin that. There are rods of each element. Obviously means I think they go somewhere. Where, I'm not entirely sure yet. Either that or they have uses that are not there yet. Which is interesting. There's some mods that still are not... necessarily finished, like like arcane, like the Forbidden Arcanus, which is sad. Oh yes. Also, considering I'm getting off track here, I'm trying to stay on track this time. We're gonna get into Create, as some of you were really excited about Create. I've never seen this mod before in my whole life. I've not played a lot of mod packs, but usually this is not what I've seen before, so this will be interesting. Rotational Force, some assembly required. As with many systems, power is required for Create. This generally means making something spin. There are, of course, multiple ways to do this, but let's go over some of the basics briefly. First, there are generators and consumers. Each generator is capable of outputting a given number of stress units, which are divided up among all connected. The faster consumers operate, the higher its impact, and the more SU it uses. So basically what it is we're making... It's basically what Combine's made over here, which is the windmill. He's getting power from the windmill to turn his machine over here. See? Because I'll show you the inside. The inside here has the wind turning the gears. As the wind turns the gears, it moves the system to allow this machine to work. What this machine essentially does is like you throw it in... Oh, that didn't work. Well, you essentially throw in, it makes ore. It can make ore the same as a smeltery. You have to wash the stone, it washes the stone, cooks the stone, and then comes over here. And then it also makes gold sheets. Which I assume are really important for Create later on. As he's messed with the mod more than I have. The only reason he's not... You may notice he's not here today, he's actually really busy right at the moment. So unfortunately, we weren't going to have enough time to record with him here and have the episode up in time. But he has been working on Resourceful Bees, which is an interesting mod. They're essentially bees that make gold. I'm gonna have to fix this. They're like, if you have gold bees, they essentially can make blocks of gold, oddly enough. Which I've seen the mod, like, we've seen the mod really early on in the first episodes since we started the series, but we've never actually seen them in action. They didn't actually have a purpose, they kind of existed. You could kind of breed together and make other bees. Okay, so I understand. Okay, so we're gonna make some cog wheels. So we need andesite alloy, buttons, and planks, which we already have. I've already made those. Just put the goggles on. Because I've already made those, but I'll show you how I made the andesite blocks, because that's an actual important foundation that you use a lot in Create. It'd help if I grabbed the buttons to go with it. Alright. I almost forgot the buttons. That was going to be very tragic. Alright, so you need andesite, you need 2 iron nuggets, and then that's how you make an andesite alloy. It's the foundation for everything. Do not forget it. Because I actually really like that it made andesite useful. Okay, so we got cog wheel done. It actually made a lot more cog wheels than I thought it would. I was not expecting it to make as many cog wheels. If I remember correctly, the larger one, we need to make it this way. Yes, we do. There. And that took a little bit more. That took a little bit more resources than I thought it would to make. And the smaller one made a little bit less, but that's alright. Made more. The smaller one needed less resources, but more. But made more for what it was worth. Alright, we're also going to make a blueprint, because that's also an important foundation for Create. Also, I could make it considering Britannia allowed me to make dye easily. You just need a mortar and you just need the pestle and mortar, and you can essentially use any flower petal to make any color dye you need. Is that way you don't have to hunt for Minecraft flowers. It makes it so much easier. So now we have a schematic and quill. So Architecture 101. Because the schematic will allow you to save a schematic of an existing structure. The save schematic will allow you to build the structure somewhere else. So, what I'm gathering from this is essentially I could copy Combine's windmill and then move it and then rebuild it elsewhere. That's what I'm getting from it. Also, I'll show you the bees from Resourceful Bees. I know some of you guys have mostly seen them, but you haven't seen the unique ones. Because apparently, from Combine's working with them, this mod is very unique in the sense that each time, like if we added a new mod to it, let's say we added a new mod that added new materials, it creates a new bee for that mod. So like one of the light green bee, or at least one of the light green bees that are floating around, that light green bee that's underneath the nest right at the moment, that's actually a Britannia bee. Interestingly enough, which also makes finding guides to this really hard, because the base bees are a little bit easier. Also, Basin lives here. Apparently he really likes it here. The base bees are a little bit easier to find information of, but if you want to try to find information about what the specifically unique mod bees do, I think you're SOL. Because the guide doesn't really tell you. So that's a quartz bee. They make quartz. Essentially, the RNG bee took me a minute to realize what it makes. It essentially makes dyes. It makes every dye known to man. The Kobe bee makes beef, which makes sense. It kind of just continues to go. They all require special blocks, though. Like the water bee here needs water. Our spooky bee needs bone blocks. So it's like they need flowers, but they also prefer a certain type of block. They also can mutate. They can also mutate blocks. So like the gold bees, if you stick stone next to them, they'll mutate it. But the more gold bees you have, the faster it goes. Other than that, if I'm pretty sure it's incredibly, incredibly slow. So it's not really lucrative to do unless you have like 20 gold bees in one room. Having it mutate a block or two. Alright. Now let's do mechanism. So we need to make an Energized Smelter. So we have 4 steel ingots, glass, and osmium. So let me grab that at the moment and head inside the building before it gets dark and creepers explode, because the creepers have been really bad, as you've seen lately, which is a really big problem. Especially for me, for someone who kind of unknowingly stands here like this, and then suddenly looks around, and then the creeper. Alright. So, osmium. We have our steel here. We're going to put it in the 4 corners. And then we're going to follow with the glass. Okay, so we have our steel casing. I do not want the dirt up there. I'm just trying to put stuff away. There. Alright, so let me make sure I got the alignment right. Okay, so basic control units go top and bottom, redstone goes in the 4 corners, and then glass goes on the sides. I forgot the redstone. There's the redstone. I saw the redstone and I was like, I think it's that's for something else. It's for immediately what we're doing right now. Okay, so we do glass across the sides. Go here, and now we have an Energized Smelter. So, an Energized Smelter does not essentially explain us what an Energized Smelter does, but I'm assuming what it does is that it actually... Let's see. Okay, so show recipes. Oh! Okay, so... It essentially turns... Wow, it actually works really well. So essentially, as long as it has power, it smelts really fast and can turn one block into something else entirely. Though I think it works the same thing as a furnace, though a little bit faster. As long as it has power. So I wonder if I stick block... Oh my god, there's so many creepers on the map. I'm just gonna get inside. To safety. This is gonna move eventually, but we're sticking it right here for the time being. Okay, so I wonder if this is going to give it power. It does not. Is this going to get power? It does not. Alright. Ha. I wonder how this works. I think we're gonna have to plug it up to a heat generator. I think it's gonna, yeah. I think it's pretty much gonna be the same as a heat generator. Because we're gonna have to start making cords and coils. So that way it will connect up to so that way we'll have the smelter and the metal electric infuser going. Which will make our lives so much easier. But unfortunately, let me see. Oh yeah, we're gonna make the book. That's right. I forgot. I was like, I think I covered everything. Whoops. I made a chest specifically so that way I'd have everything. That way that way I'd know where all the materials I needed were. And if I already built anything, it wasn't there. And I could show you guys somewhere else. Alright, so let's see. If I remember correctly, it's 2 clay here, lava bucket, and then coal across. Yes. Because that's how we make the paste. Okay, so we make the dielectric paste, and we combine it with a book. And now we have the manual of power. Okay, so the manual of power, solar reactor, solar panel, thermogenerator, magnator, furnerator. So they're generator, storage, transfer, functional blocks, items, and materials. Also, I know some of you got thinking about seeing how some of this book is a little bit bare, and we might learn more about it as we go. Interestingly enough, some of you guys have pointed out that you're excited for fire and ice, but as we've been, as Combine and I have been exploring around, very extensively, might I add, since we had to explore around a lot to try to find one of the crystals for astral sorcery. There isn't, we have yet to see any ice and fire mobs. For those of you who don't know what ice and fire is, it usually includes dragons, mermaids. The newest update's gonna include werewolves. I don't think it includes vampires yet. It probably doesn't include vampires yet, but I know it includes other undead. It also includes sirens, dryads, all manner of fairy tale fanciful creatures, even hippogriffs that you can tame. You can also tame dragons eventually. You can also tame dragons, you have to get an egg to do so. But I think it's just kind of weird how we haven't seen any mobs for that mod pack as someone who's played that mod pack extensively. And usually the sea serpents are the bane of my existence. Though, unfortunately, that's actually going to be all the time we have for this episode. Next episode, we're going to cover a little bit more into... We're actually going to get into power a little bit. We're going to make the starter rod. Because we have nether quartz stored away. We're considering this also makes we also need derelict casing. We're going to make solar panels, so it'll actually be a little bit easier on mechanism. Because mechanism is going to require a lot of power as we get further and further along into it. Because we're going to need to make the Enrichment Chamber, which is essentially almost the same recipe as the Energized Smelter, though it needs iron and not glass, which is kind of odd, but I guess that makes it a little bit simpler and easier to get into. We're also going to get more into industrial foregoing. I've been hesitant to get into it just because it's really odd, because specifically for the example of the mob slaughter factory. If I built that, I wouldn't have anywhere to necessarily put it, considering it kills any mob in its vicinity. You don't get anything from it. You don't any mobs, friendly or not, just basically die. So even if I do make it, it's probably going to be stored away somewhere until I can bury it deep underground where it won't hurt anybody outright, except for maybe the occasional zombie or skeleton that I won't know exists somewhere, because I don't know its radius. Because I don't want to stick it right here and then have it destroy the farm. That would be tragic. It'd also probably kill Jason, which would also be just tragic. Anyway, unfortunately, that's going to be all the time we have for this episode. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Feel free to check out our Patreon down below in the description for as little as $3 a month. You can help us out. You can help fund new equipment. My keyboard's getting really old. I need to buy a new one. I'm actually also saving up for a new computer currently. You also get nice little perks. Like, you'll get to be a part of our Discord server. You'll be part of an awesome community. You also get to participate in things like polls, where you'll get to vote on things like if you wanted to see me do another mod pack, think about doing another mod pack after I finish this one. This one's still a long ways off, but if you're thinking about it and you want to make a recommendation, you can. I'm always looking for new mod packs to try. I'll also try it in my free time, see how it works, so I don't go into this entirely blind, but I'll go into it mostly blind. Mostly blind. But I cannot believe we've reached 55 subscribers at this point. Our current goal is 75. It's amazing. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate each and every one of you. We can't thank you enough. Like, I didn't think we'd ever reach 55 subscribers. Ever. And it's really amazing that you guys, like, have shared us around to get big enough, and we've gotten big enough to, like, people to notice us. And for us to have grown as fast as we have. Anyway, as always, I'm 1SmolPot8o, and I will see you guys next episode. Bye-bye!